There were trailers. I saw the trailer at E3.
Yeah, but
I remember that.
but it's never the same as
A sequel, yeah.
a sequel.
It's not the sequel to the Citizen Kane of gaming. It's
Yeah.
not Citizen... Was there ever a Citizen Kane 2? Yeah, it's called Kane and Lynch. It's very weird.
Wait, no, that's it. That's it.
This is like a script. It's not a game script.
Right.
It's a script.
Fuck the Oscars, you know? Fuck the Oscars! Fuck you!
Because the most subtle nuances of emotions could be seen on screen. With the PlayStation 4, games have now finally reached that stage.
This is the Citizen Kane podcast, the podcast where we rate games on how many dogs you can kill. And the more dogs you can kill in the game, the better the game is. And Last of Us 2, what me and Ryan are talking about, that is a game where you get to kill lots of dogs. Therefore, it is a 10 out of 10.
Yeah,
Second, go ahead.
I was going to say, I haven't played it, but a game I assume will beat it is that Battlefield game where you play a cop.
Yeah.
I assume...
Battlefield Hardline.
Yeah, I assume... because it's supposed to be a realistic depiction of police work, and so I assume it involves just mowing down dogs.
I don't know. But you're like mowing down. Yeah, but in that game, you're probably mowing down like maybe you get like a German Shepherd. You know, like you're killing police dogs in this game. And same thing with like Call of Duty 4. You're snapping police dogs' necks.
Yeah,
but in that game, you're like shooting someone's chihuahua because you're fucking terrified.
Because you're terrified that they're on cocaine.
Yeah.
Because you fear for your life.
Okay. Last of Us Part 2. The most recent game we've talked about, right? Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the only one that comes close is Uncharted 4.
Right.
Because we're just talking about Naughty Dog games for some reason. How
did you feel when the first trailer dropped, the release trailer?
Which one was that?
I believe it was a really simple thing of just Ellie. I think she was messing with
not the release
her
trailer,
guitar.
the announcement trailer.
Or the announcement.
Right, and
trailer.
then it's got like just voiceover.
Yeah, I think she's messing around with the guitar, and she's like, "I'm gonna fucking kill them all." And I think, if I remember right, that's already when the deception starts because Joel is like saying, "Are you gonna do this by yourself?" In that,
right?
I don't know if I'm confusing it with the later one.
No, you're absolutely right. I remember this.
But that was it. It was pretty short.
Right. I don't know. I don't even think I'd played the first game when that came out.
Oh, okay.
I played the first game in the PS4 re-release my freshman year of college in 2016.
Which is how most people, well, not necessarily in college, but most people played the PS4 version, which is kind of weird to think about. But it kind of makes sense, because it's like that came after the hype, and then the PS4 was a way more popular console, so I guess it makes sense. So
I had no real feelings on it, other than that I was like, basically I saw that there was a sequel coming out, and it's like, oh yeah, I never got to play that. So I guess my reaction was I spent like $15 and bought the re-release, because this was years after it had come out, and bought a used copy of the re-release and played that.
And then you played it, and then were you ready? It's like, all right, I'm ready for a sequel, or what?
Yeah, I was like, okay, that was fun. Like I said, the core gameplay of that game is good and effective, and so I was looking forward to it. But I wasn't like, I don't know, going on forums and talking with fans, because I wasn't like in fan groups of that or anything.
Yeah. Okay, so I had a little bit different experience, because I played it earlier, and when the trailer got announced, I kind of just was like, Well, I was worried, and I feel like I was one of the few people who was worried just because it's like, oh, that was like a perfect ending. Not that I'm like, I wasn't a real Last of Us head. I wasn't a super fan, but I was like, you didn't really need to make a sequel to that. I don't know why I thought it wouldn't get a sequel. Like, you have to make a sequel to something that big. But I distinctly remember, commenting on like r/games. It's like, I'm worried. I don't think it needed a sequel. And someone responded like, what do you mean? Nothing ever technically needs a sequel. And then went off on like a tangent about how I was being like sore or something. And I was like, I bet that guy is probably on the spectrum of like being disappointed by the sequel. So,
I mean,
I'm just saying I was right the whole time. That's all I'm gonna say.
Yeah. I mean, in a sense, that guy is kind of right in that, barring very few if I'm comparing it to films, right? Most films don't demand sequels necessarily.
Yeah, and most of them
even
shouldn't
ones
get made.
that feel more open to sequels than Last of Us, like The Matrix. Most people will now agree did not need sequels.
I just thought I was also thinking like, well, what are they gonna do? And but that was it. And then the leaks happened. What do you remember about the leaks?
Avoided it. Yeah, because I knew I wanted to play the game.
You are just like
monk.
You're more of a stand-up person than me. I gotta admit, you are. So the thing is I like to pretend it's like, oh, well, I'm gonna look because I'm not like that invested, so I don't mind if I'm spoiled. It's like, no, I'm just weak-willed, and I couldn't resist. And I mean, did you catch like a whiff of any of that at all?
I knew people
No
were
vibes
mad.
or anything.
I think at some point I knew Joel died, but I think that wasn't even from the leaks. I think that was from people reacting to the game when it had actually come out. So I don't think I got spoiled on anything from the leaks.
Okay. I went right into it and saw the drama, and I remember I think the things that were leaked were like, it was Joel gets killed by a muscly girl who's the daughter of the doctor he killed in the first game, and my only reaction was, that's probably a tough sell. And I think I might have been right. And then all these like people were already getting mad, and there's always like you have like a spectrum of people, of like people are just like, that sounds stupid, to people were saying that Abby was a trans character, which maybe they got confused because
because I think there was just leaks that there was a trans character in the game, not multiple. But I
remember there was some dumb shit.
Confused.
I remember there was some dumb
and the usual shit stirrers were in the mix, of course.
And that's what I was talking about. The shit stirrers, like, oh my god, Joel gets killed by a trans woman.
Well, that's not the word they used.
Yeah, of course.
We could start talking about the plot, and that whole Abby's a trans woman thing tied into people being mad that Ellie was gay. Which I guess the one thing I do remember from like 2017 is people treating it like that was a revelation. In this
which
game,
is pretty funny.
Which was weird.
Like, oh, you didn't play the
Left Behind, yeah, because that was established in the first game's DLC. So
I think even Zero Punctuation like forgot or didn't play it, because I remember in his review he's like, they retroactively made her a lesbian. It's like, well, I guess you what? But anyways, game starts out with Joel talking about the shit he did, and
a recap. He tells his brother Tommy.
And that's all fine and good, but the real thing is, we talk about Uncharted 3 waits a while to give you a gun. Last of Us 1 waits a while. This game doesn't have any fear at all. It is fearless about not giving you any sort of action or anything.
In a huge chunk of the opening, yeah.
And not just, and I was thinking about this too, where it's like, it's not just that it doesn't give you a gun, it's that it doesn't even give you action, because, you know, even though you don't fight things in the beginning of the first game, it's still pretty exciting with all the zombies and shit and running around.
Yeah, it's an action sequence, even if it's not a gunplay sequence. If it's not a combat sequence in a video game, but in a movie it would be an action sequence. Whereas this is just literally you walking through town, taking care of horses.
I don't know about you, but I was just looking at this. I would like to live in a community like this. You know what? They look like they're doing okay.
That's the fantasy of post-apocalyptic living, is that it'll force us to talk to our neighbors again. And that sounds like reactionary, but it's really...
No. You're 100% right.
It'll destroy the American techno-capitalism, and we'll be forced to move into a, not explicitly socialistic, but at least more communitarian mode of existence.
And your fucking job will be going and shooting
and hunting zombies,
which aren't people, so it's fine. It's exciting.
Yeah.
I just wanted to point out, it's like this is such like a, you know, Last of Us is trying to be such a brutal world, and that brutality always has to be, and this does tie into the main point, it's like it has to be violence, because you take away violence on people against people, or at least, you know, the intensity of that violence, it's like you start thinking about, like, damn, what, everything else is kind of better. You know what I'm saying?
Yes. Yeah. I'm thinking of a J.G. Ballard quote I saw about how the American suburban petty bourgeois dream of explosive, violent end of the world.
I mean,
and
that's
of course,
what Joel's... Go ahead.
And of course, Zizek, it is easier for us to imagine the end of the world than the end of capitalism.
Right. And, you know, man, and then Joel, the first game, he's, like, dealing with some bullshit, construction job, you know, he's taking phone calls and stuff, and it's like, well, you know, your daughter got shot, but now you get to do cool things. Like,
I don't think Joel is enjoying those cool things at all.
I am. You get to you get to crouch walk and stab people.
Right,
you know?
But Joel living it clearly sucks.
Oh, I'm not making I'm not making an argument against that. I'm just saying my personal fantasy of this.
Yeah, but you like that as a fantasy.
Yeah, and I mean, I guess that's partially why people want to play it. But how do you generally feel about just the... Do you find this pacing indulgent?
Oh, how long it takes to get to real gameplay?
But also, you know, all of it. You know, there's just the ratio, a lot more cutscenes.
Yes, a lot more quiet moments. And I think... Ultimately, I think I kind of like it.
Wow, how's it feel to be wrong? Alright, I'm only...
It feels great. Can I explain why I like it?
Please.
It's not afraid to demand that you give a shit about these characters. Does that make sense? Because it doesn't feel the need to distract you constantly, and neither does the first game, to be clear, but this one is even more forward with that. That it is willing to just be sort of not embarrassed about even slightly cheesy emotional moments, like the later... well, this is something that happens later, but this whole scene where Ellie plays... What? The cheesy
Take
song.
Take on Me.
Take on Me. And it's like... it's treacly. It's sappy, right? But I like that they have the balls to be sappy.
I just want to put a pin on that later.
Okay.
The guitar stuff.
The guitar stuff in general is weird.
Yeah, but
I like that scene.
All right, fair enough. I think I am a little bit of... I'm a bitch about this. And what I mean is, I think I demand some sort of perfection to the pacing ratio that suits me. And any deviance from that, it's like, it annoys me a little bit. And I guess I see this trend with... I would compare, only in this way, Last of Us to Wolfenstein, where I think the first game is a lot leaner and a lot more efficient with its cutscenes, and the second game, the creators heard that, like, oh, the first game had a good story and really good cutscenes, and the feedback they took is that they should put more of that in the game, like literally more, and I don't think it completely works. And my example from the first part is just Joel coming up to Ellie singing a song that's like really on the nose, where it's like, I wouldn't know what to do if I'd lose you. And I don't know, it just didn't work for me. I'm like okay with taking like a long ass cutscene. In like I said, I'm trying to meet a lot of games where they're at, but it already off the bat, it just wasn't quite sitting with me. It just seemed a little obvious. I don't know.
That's fair.
And then Joel dies.
Oh wait, so
I don't. Well,
that's
okay, I don't know what to say.
There's actually a good amount going on here, and including criticism I have of the game.
Okay.
In this seg, so after in the first real gameplay, we're cutting between Ellie and Dina exploring, and then to Abby and her people approaching. And we're intercutting between these two, playing as Abby. And that's a problem I have. I don't think we should play as Abby until the halfway point, when it switches.
And why is that?
Because it makes playing as Abby later not much of a surprise. Because, on the one hand, these scenes do establish some good foreshadowing, because there's all this talk about him and what he did, and that foreshadows why Abby is going to kill Joel. And it has the twist of her. It makes her... But I don't think... Like, I feel like the moment, the switch this game makes, about a third to halfway through where you play as Abby, would be more effective if we didn't have sequences playing as her in, like, the prologue portion of the game.
I think
does that make sense?
Yeah, that does make sense. And I think partially maybe it's like, you have some cutscenes with her and Owen where they do that work. And I wonder if partially it's like we need a little bit more gameplay and tutorializing in here. Right. And maybe that's partially why. Because I remember you learn a few things, like I think you learn how to dodge with Abby.
Yes. And you learn how to crawl.
Yeah, and so maybe that's a part of it.
You could easily fold those into the Ellie and Dina sequences.
Yeah, and I think it was a mistake.
They're tutorializing you on most things. That sequence playing as Ellie.
Oh yeah, that's true. I think it was a mistake from not pissing people off point, because it makes you feel a little dirty and complicit with... I think the most reactionary and angry gamers took it as like a bigger insult that you play as Joel's killer before it happens. And you essentially help, before you really know what you're doing, you help Joel get killed. Right. And that was probably... not that you could ever make the most unhappy of those people happy, but yeah, like I said, that's a tough sell, starting off like that.
That's true, because I feel like if I was to design this game, I would have it cutting between Ellie and Joel.
Yeah, you say goodbye to Joel.
Well, not say goodbye.
No, I mean like mechanically.
Right.
You get one last... you get to control him one last time.
Right, but the expectation that would set up for the player is that Joel is the other main character in this game.
Yeah, if you're trying to make a twist, like...
Yeah. And then
but
his sudden death. Maybe you even control him for some of it. When he's
I wonder, but that's adding, you have to create like a player character that you won't even use that much. So maybe, that's like a hard thing. But I do think that would totally be better.
I don't know how much, because it's not like Abby or Ellie are very mechanically different from each other, except in their weapons.
I mean, God knows what, the shit that you think is easy is hard, and sometimes the hard shit's easy. I don't know.
Maybe I'm asking for more...
I think it'd be better. Yeah,
programmers to be locked in a dungeon for 30 hours a day and whipped by Neil Druckmann and whatever ghouls run Naughty Dog. But
so going back to
from a purely artistic perspective, I think it would be more effective if you played as Joel during the opening and then died. Yeah, and I guess I was thinking like back to, more of like the news cycle stuff is like hearing about all the, all the labor that went into this and all the crunch. When I see those longer cutscenes and like, this is the most hedonistic way of looking at things. But like, when it's not working for me, I'm like, wow, that's a lot of like miserable hours to create something that ultimately doesn't work, and that just makes it worse. Even though that's stupid, but you get what I'm saying. Yeah. It's going on in my mind. I'm like thinking about that's inescapable.
The fucking that's what it is.
On the one hand, it's good that we know so much about the labor that goes into making games and how fucked up it is. We should know more about that. That's distilling the whole separating the art from the artist thing. Is just I guess it just comes down to is like, well, how much are you personally thinking about it? Well, because it's separating the art from the process of its creation.
The sausage from the factory.
Yes, the sausage being made.
So a lot of the drama I remember is there was r/The Last of Us 2, which is different from r/The Last of Us because the former subreddit is about being angry about the game. And so I went on there to refresh myself of what people were mad about. And people thought it was a pretty big plot hole that Joel and Tommy go, hey, we're Joel and Tommy. We've got like a living space. Come and follow us and we'll meet together. Like, people thought it's like Joel wouldn't be that stupid and trusting, and the writers just did that, lazily to get him killed.
So the idea is they wouldn't be that trusting of a bunch of strangers?
Yeah, I distinctly recall, like, another one of those, a Chad and Soy Wojak, the classics. And Chad Joel is from the first game where he kills everybody and doesn't trust nobody. And Soy Joel is saying, this is my brother, Ethan, and fuck, what the fuck is
Tommy?
Wrong? I just stroked out. Who the fuck is Ethan? Who's Ethan?
I have no idea. Hang on.
I mean, there's Ethans in life, but it's like, here are names. Here's my address. Yes.
You're thinking of the Coen brothers.
Ethan and Joel.
Joel and Ethan Coen. You're thinking of the Coen brothers?
I ain't even seen that many Coen brothers movies.
No,
what the fuck
but
is
for
wrong
some
with
reason,
me?
you default that the brother of a man named Joel must be named Ethan.
Well, anyway, Joel and Ethan say their names and give their addresses.
You just said it wrong again.
That was on purpose, as a joke.
The Coen brothers. Invite them to be part of their next brilliant film.
Right. I don't know enough about...
You want to star in Fargo 2?
There we go.
Barton Fink 2?
Okay. All I was going to say is... Yeah, people thought that was dumb, but that kind of plays into the...
Wait, hang on. Let me say my defense of that now that I figured it out.
Okay, go ahead.
Which is, Joel is like, he's distrustful, but like he's not murder happy or paranoid. Like at no point... So the first game implies that he was like a bandit at one point and was raiding civilians when he talks about being on both sides, right?
Yeah.
But by the time we're playing him, he never, just murders someone.
He's only messing up other... We only see him messing up other assholes.
And people who have started it with him.
Yeah.
Like, at no point in the present of the first game does he ever, initiate a fight with someone who has not tried to hurt him or Ellie.
He kills cops, which is cool,
Oh,
yeah, those guys were technically, they're kind of, the remnants of the government.
Fedra guys, yeah.
Yeah.
But those are assholes who were trying to kill him.
Yeah.
Right, he doesn't... And so, also, that seems... So in a town like Jackson, that is how you have to... you have to invite newcomers into town to try to bolster your numbers. That's a risk you would have to take if you, like Tommy basically is... are in charge of running a settlement in a post-apocalyptic setting.
Yeah.
You can't just throw away physically fit, armed outsiders who might be recruits. Because you then make enemies. And it absolutely makes sense to meet people who have, before they shoot Joel and kill him, have not really expressed any hostility. I don't think the idea that the logical thing for them to do would be to just kill them or be immediately hostile. It doesn't make sense.
Again, it's even if it was
who cares?
Yeah, even if it was flimsy, that's what I was getting to. Even if it was flimsy, it's whatever. The point is Joel gets killed, and that's probably what those people are actually angry at, and they are, and that's going into the weird thing where some people. Like I said, however, you read the game, the first game, some people completely read it as Joel is daddy, and Joel did nothing wrong, and the ending of the game is about how cool he is. And,
right.
Which is, no matter your take on the game, it's that's pretty weird.
And I feel like a lot of parts of this game are created to get rid of those people.
And it fucking did.
Yeah, because I think this game is aimed at those people, who are probably a relative minority of players.
Oh yeah, they just post a lot.
Right, who did not understand, even with how overt it was, just did not get the idea that Joel isn't a good person.
I think that some of that is just part of what people are used to with action games, and that's and for all of the uniqueness of the Last of Us story, it plays out like a typical. In a lot of action games, Grand Theft Auto or whatever, it's you play a bad guy, and I guess what I'm trying to say is it's part of selling games is how cool your action hero is, because that action hero in turn makes you feel cool because you're playing as them, and that's all fine when you're playing as Master Chief, and that's fine when you're playing as Trevor from GTA 2, even though he's an asshole, because it's kind of cartoony and there's a distance. But I think people still kind of have that mindset where it's Joel is a cool, and he is a cool guy. That's the thing.
He's me. That's the mindset, is that he's me.
Not necessarily me, but I get, you know what? He's competent at violence. And and that's what I might get to a little bit with part 2, is that it's hard to be anti-violence if you're still selling competency at violence. When Joel does a fucked up thing, it's still really fucking cool. It's like the ending of Unforgiven. It's he says, Clint Eastwood's I've killed women and children, and it's oh, that's fucked up. But deep down, you're also going, wow, he is a fucking badass.
Right. Or, I mean, the ending of any of these movies. The ending of Taxi Driver.
Yeah, and people are mad that he got taken out like a punk.
Right, but that is probably the point.
And
Because
that
it
is
takes
the
away
point.
his competence. He gets shot. He's then just beaten to death with various household implements and then dies. Like,
If you didn't get that, I guess I didn't feel a whole lot during it because it was spoiled for me. But even if I was, it's like, oh, that is like a super logical thing to do as a storyteller, because what the fuck else do you do with Joel? He's had his arc, or lack of arc, or whatever you want to say.
He failed his arc.
Yeah, his story's done.
He had his chance at redemption, and then he kind of fucked it up. And so, the only other route you take is reversing the ending of the first game, which would have been way worse.
It would have been even worse. I guess it's like, to those very small group of people, it's like, this is like if you can at least see what the fuck they're going for. Don't be such a dumbass and don't get so emotional about it,
Yeah. Anyway.
So, Joel gets
owned.
I got a question about Tommy.
Okay.
I always got the impression I got from Tommy from the first game. He resented his brother. And he says, and he kind of blames him on all the fucked up shit that they did.
Yes.
I thought that Tommy's reaction to Joel getting killed wouldn't have been revenge, but it'd be like, yeah, I mean, I thought he would have been sad, but also like, yeah, Joel made like a fuck ton of enemies, and we don't get to see a lot of Tommy, but I wasn't expecting him to go out and hunt Abby down by himself.
Well, on the one hand, this is... So yeah, when you meet him in part 1 in Last of Us, they are sort of distant, but they have been like living together for 5 years by the time of the second game, and seem to have repaired that relationship a lot.
It was less about like the emotional connection and more like I thought Tommy was like the smarter brother who would have accepted. Like, I can buy what Tommy did, but it really wasn't I was expecting, and that kind of continues on towards the end of the game too.
Oh, what, Tommy still being... Well, that's for later, but like, yeah, Tommy being the one who's the devil on Ellie's shoulder.
Yeah, and I guess that's just part of, he wasn't that fleshed out in the first game, and you could have filled in those blanks a lot of different ways, but that's not what I thought how it would have gone anyways.
I mean, in fairness, the first major thing we see him do in the first game is have this soldier who just killed his niece and who's like freaking out and just blow his head off with automatic rifle fire.
You know what? I guess he's about family.
Yeah,
like
that is that is literally the first major thing we see him do.
And he did, even though he blames Joel, he did presumably go along and set up raider traps or whatever.
Yeah, and was a firefly and stuff. Because that's why he comes back into the story in the first game.
All right, here's a dumb question. Why does Abby have muscles?
I mean, I feel like that's pretty well explained in the game, is that because they bring up that she's obsessed with training because she's obsessed with killing Joel.
I know, like, this is a big thing, but I guess I was thinking it's like, we established with Ellie that you don't need muscles to kill a motherfucker. And I don't know. I just, I guess the thematic point is showing her dedication to revenge.
Yeah, because it's supposed to be like, because in the flashbacks when you play as her, she basically ends a relationship and becomes isolated because she's just shooting and lifting weights and doing combat stuff.
I guess it also just shows her, her dedication to just violent. But I guess I also thought it was weird that, I don't know, like, again, Joel's really good at killing people, and he does... I guess it's part of a story showing how the wolves are pretty militaristic, I guess.
And they're also like even more than the people in Jackson, relatively resource rich. Like we see that they have entire like stocks of cattle, and because we see in that arena that they have that they're a lot more well fed than any other faction we see.
Yeah. So Joel gets
murdered. Then we have the plot. Ellie goes off on the murder quest, the revenge quest.
I thought it was a little weird that it's Tommy who goes off first, right? And then Ellie and Dina follow.
Yeah.
And it's just like their plan is we're going to have 3 people go and hunt. I guess they don't know how prepared of a faction this group is.
Yeah, all they know about them is that they're from Seattle, and there were like 6 of them. They don't know that there's an entire like paramilitary force, or basically military state, that they're affiliated with.
Yeah.
Because it's clear when you first meet the WLF in Seattle, like, Ellie and Dina are aware that they were not ready for that.
Yeah. How do you feel about Ellie and Dina?
So, here's where I'm a genius. So, they start dating during the prologue, and then Joel gets murdered. And then, like, 2 days later, they go off on the like, murder quest to kill all the people who killed Joel, right?
Yeah.
And I was like, it's weird that they've been dating for 2 days and Dina is down to commit to this quixotic revenge quest immediately. And then I was like, why not have it be more time between Joel's death and them leaving? That was my question when I was playing the game the first time. And then, because I'm a genius, I got an answer.
Okay.
It's because that's the only timeline that makes it work, that Dina is pregnant and doesn't know it when they leave. That's why that exists.
I thought you could at least, if I wanted to be charitable, I would say even though they're not dating, don't they establish that they're like...
they establish that, but they establish that afterwards.
No. They establish their resource gathering buddies. They go out and get stuff.
Right. And eventually in the flashbacks they established Dina's had like a crush on Ellie for a while.
Yeah, I guess I'll say it's like, that's fine, but good on you for figuring out. It just
stuck out to me because I was thinking, why wouldn't they have more than 2 days pass between the prologue and the start of this trip? Because I feel like that would make more sense. And then I was like, that's why.
Well,
the reason
you know
they couldn't do that is because of
you get a cookie, but you still need to ask, or you still need to answer. Just how do you feel about them as just a pairing throughout?
It's pretty good. I think it works, and I immediately, as soon as I knew she was pregnant, understood the thematic purpose of it. Because I'm also a genius.
Because someone else is pregnant? Is that?
No, the thematic purpose is it needs to be so. The thematic purpose comes up in the 3rd act after Seattle. When you have a year later.
I guess no. I'm asking like, is it so that there's a parallel between Abby's pregnant friend?
Right. There's that that Ellie kills. I'm laughing because that's hilariously edgy to me.
You don't have to explain yourself. It's pretty funny. Just like killing dogs, killing pregnant women. 10 out of 10.
But that's there. But I think the real, because that's there is the reason Abby doesn't kill them. But I think the bigger reason is that it means that Ellie makes the same mistake Joel makes. To a degree. It means that Ellie has a family that she gives up to go on this revenge quest.
Oh, okay.
That's why it exists. Ellie needs to have a family, a new family, so that in the 3rd act there can be a choice between the new family and the old family.
Okay.
And so them essentially being married and raising a kid makes that more real than just being like a girl she's dated for a year.
Yeah, you gotta bind them a little.
Yeah,
Well,
you have to make it so that they're more of a family unit. More of a family unit and not just two 20-year-olds who are dating.
and here's my problem. I don't think any of the side characters are interesting. Dina, it's like I have trouble describing her as like a personality. It's like she has the same. She just kind of goes along with Ellie and is in it until she doesn't become interesting until the end, where she's a counterpoint. And she feels more like a tool of the story, and Jesse and Owen and there's that guy who gets shot by Tommy in the fucking head.
Manny.
Manny. All these side characters, just TV static to me.
Him getting shot is awesome, though.
It's hard for me to. Well, that's what the really angry people thought. That they thought that part was pretty fucking awesome. But and it's hard for me to explain why it doesn't work. And my only example is just to go back to the first game, where no one is interesting as Bill to me, the loner guy who sets up a bunch of fucking traps,
right?
Or and I think I talked about this on the previous episode. You have these shorter shown side characters like Bill and Sam. Or Henry, and they do all that thematic work and stuff, and all the other characters in this game are just not as interesting to me. And like, I don't know, what do you think about fucking Jesse, for one thing?
Jesse does feel Jesse is the one I most agree with you about, that he kind of is a nothing character.
He's there to get Dina pregnant
and then get owned.
And they get fucking owned, get fucking domed.
Yeah, like Manny,
shot in the fucking head.
Which is that's a parallel.
That is This game loves its fucking.
It's like poetry. It rhymes.
Oh my god! Yes, that's the thing where I saw when I was like browsing through reviews just to get like, what are people saying about this? What are like the video essayists saying about this? And there was one that was like, Last of Us 2 is an incoherent mess. And I like, no,
it's like,
you can say this game's bad, but it's not fucking incoherent. In fact, I would say it's obvious. It's really fucking clear what it's going for.
Like I said, the Dina storyline, I could basically, from maybe the first 3 hours, map out the entire thing. Because it's so obvious the thematic point it's moving towards.
And it didn't help for me that I knew the spoilers. Like, I knew you were going to play at Abby at some point, and so it's like, oh, they're doing a thing,
Right.
That was my reaction playing most of this game, is oh, they're doing a thing.
Like, this game is maybe a weakness of being so high budget and requiring so much labor is almost, there's nothing, it's so meticulously planned out in its narrative execution.
It's a little workman-like.
Yes. Like, so the idea that it's incoherent doesn't make any sense to me.
Which, again, you almost have to give some props for, because of how desolate, video game, at least storytelling in that manner when it's attempted is. It's like, well, hey, they did a thing,
Yeah.
Like,
they had the story choices did have a thematic point.
Yeah, and I think that's where a lot of the 10 out of 10, like IGN gave this a 10 out of 10, just like the last one, and that's probably where a lot of those come from, where it's like, you see the thing, it's high budget, it plays well, and it does what it sets out to do for the most part, and that's probably how it worked for probably most people, like this game. I remember there's a great article showing that like 70% of people who bought this game finished it, which if you know anything about how little people finish games relative to buying it is like extraordinary.
Well, I think that does make sense because the drive of the game is the story.
Yeah.
Like if you bought this game, you're buying it so you can see the story and therefore you want to finish it.
I know, but still, like, if you want to go to, and you can test this out by looking at achievements and where they'll
on
give
Steam,
you this. Yeah, and compared to other story games, it's still pretty impressive, and that's definitely part of it.
Yeah. So the next section is, if I can move on.
You want to talk about some fucking combat?
Yeah, so I was going to talk about this sort of pseudo-open world section in Seattle, and this is where we get... And this is a good place than any to discuss the combat, which I did replay some, because I replayed some of the encounters before doing this.
Right.
It's really good.
Yeah.
I think the combat... It's really good. Like, it's exactly the right kind of visceral, and a lot of that has to do with the sound design, and with how much of an impact your weapons have on the enemy models. You know what I mean by that? Like,
no, I know exactly what. Yeah, and when you said sound design, I didn't think about it at all. But when you're doing like a silenced headshot against someone, I can't remember like another game that has a better brain exploding sound.
Yeah, and I was replaying it, and it's like, yeah, when you use Ellie's rifle and you shoot someone in the head, it's a very good visual and audio effect there, where their head just fucking like explodes like JFK's.
So video I want to shout out, his channel is just called Hero. He made a video a while ago shitting on the first Last of Us gameplay, which was a little bit infamous. But his points were pretty fair. It was like about AI and like, it was one of those things where he played the hell out of it and found like all the flaws of it. And he really likes this game. And I would recommend his video for seeing all the mechanical improvements and something like feeding people to clickers.
Yeah. That works really well in this game.
Just taking people hostage works better than the first game. And the AI... a lot of AI, when people talk about smart AI, it usually doesn't have a whole lot to do with programming. It's a lot of it is dialogue sometimes, like AI talking to each other. So all those bits of them saying, she's going in the grass, and those contribute a lot more to like AI feeling smarter than any programming really does. Or at least more than you'd expect.
Or later when you're fighting the Seraphites, the whistling.
Yeah.
Which is also has the benefit of being really unnerving.
Oh, it's pretty awesome.
Yeah, no, the AI is really good. And they fixed some exploits from the first game, like the classic... In the first game, it was the infected in any of the stealth sections were never a threat, because I would always prioritize making Molotov cocktails above anything else.
Yeah.
And then have a brick. Throw a brick, all the infected rush to it, throw a Molotov, and they all die. But they changed it so that catching on fire is not just automatically death. It will damage them, and it will burn off clickers and bloaters' armor, but it isn't a one-hit kill anymore. It's a one-hit kill if you...
It's a one-hit kill if it's some guy and someone's dog.
Yeah, and it's a one-hit kill if you throw the bottle at them, but just... In the first game, even walking into the fire while it's just on the ground burning was an automatic death, which made it absurdly easy to wipe out entire rooms of infected with Molotovs.
Yeah. It's, and there's also the scale of it. The fact that, everything's larger, And the way they work with that is introducing going prone, so you have those wide sections of short grass.
Yeah, where you're, especially during the later part of Abby's story, a lot of that was crawling.
And again, this is a third-person action stealth crafting game. But I just finished the Tomb Raider reboot.
Uh-huh. I still need to play that.
Yeah, and we'll get to that. And that is also a stealth action, brutal crafting game. And yeah, the devil is in the details, and you know why this works, and it's everything you said. It's sound design, it's the AI, it's the visuals, it's also the stuff from the first game. It's the scrappiness and the brutality.
How vulnerable you feel.
And like I said, we're the right mix of guerrilla warfare, where you feel like you can stealth everything, but you'll probably fuck up. But when you fuck up, it's easy to run away. I found myself running a lot more in this game than the first one, because there's a lot more room to run.
Because this environments are so much bigger, yeah.
So you can do a lot more hit and run tactics, and there's not really any other games that quite nail that I've played that nail the guerrilla warfare stealth action feeling like this one does.
Yeah, it works really well.
The kicker is does that serve the narrative?
Yes, that is the kicker.
Which I don't want to get into that quite yet.
Right. Okay, so then we get this sort of, what for my money might be the best sequence in the game, which is the sort of pseudo-open world sequence in the abandoned part of Seattle.
I like it.
I like it a lot. Just all the exploration, and that I like games that reward exploring everything, and this definitely does.
And it takes cues from Lost Legacy.
Yeah.
'Cause it's basically that bit, and you can take on optional challenges.
Yeah, and you can get the guns that you potentially can miss if you don't do all the exploring.
So, instead of and what we have now, I remember when I was playing through this, I was talking to you earlier, like way back, like a year ago, and I said I think this game plays better the first one, and I remember thinking the overall, it wasn't just the moment-to-moment combat, it was also the exploration, and that's probably because it's bigger open spaces, grabbing shit, and not ladder puzzles.
Yeah, they got rid of those.
They have that one with Dina where you're like opening big doors or gates or something.
But that's nowhere near as annoying as some of the ones in the first game.
Or cartoonish.
Yeah, you're not pushing a pallet.
You're
with a
not
character
pushing
on it
a fucking garbage bin,
Yeah, like it's Uncharted.
Again, the space you're filling in between gunfights, that's improved. Another YouTube video by a guy the name of Matthew Matosis said something interesting where he theorized with these types of games, some people are gameplay introverts and gameplay extroverts. And what he meant by that was some people get really antsy if they're not shooting something, and other people need a lot more cooldown from the excitement. And these games kind of seem more made for that type of person. Do you get what I'm saying?
I'm frowning deeply because of the idea of extending the bullshit introvert-extrovert dichotomy to something else.
Yeah, but it's not really introvert-extrovert. It's just more about how do you feel about like the pacing thing. Well, you know what? To that point, it's like, well, I'm a little bit of both.
Which just means you're a person.
Just means you're a human.
Yes. I think I am. I do enjoy the games that give you a bit of quiet time more. I don't like relentless action, generally, in my games.
I would definitely say how do I put it? I prefer Half-Life 2 to Titanfall 2 for people who've played those games. And
I have
know what
only
I'm
played
talking about.
Half-Life 2. I've never
You know,
played Titanfall 2.
Imagine Half-Life 2, but you're only shooting things.
That sounds lame.
Well, okay, fuck. You know what? I'm sorry for opening that can of worms. Let's move on.
Okay. And it also allows for narratively a better sense of pacing. Because it would be very difficult to tell a story where every scene is an action scene.
Yeah, which is Uncharted.
Which is Uncharted. And that is a weakness. Well, it's Uncharted, but it becomes less as in each successive game.
Yes, that's Uncharted 1.
Yeah, each successive Uncharted game dials that back more and more and has more of a sense of pacing.
I guess I'd say, you know what, though? This game's a hard sell for some people. And I remember, this person I can't remember, but someone said, like, if they time themselves doing all the encounters and then time themselves, like, you know, playing the actual game. And if you just run through every encounter in the game, that's like 3 hours if you know, do it perfectly. And so you've got 3 hours of like real meaty challenge, and then the rest of that is cutscenes and exploration. In a 20-hour game, that's a bit of a hard sell.
Yeah, but that's 3 hours of basically speedrunning the encounters. Like, the average player, I wonder, if I may, if you applied that philosophy of doing it perfectly and getting through things as fast as possible to the entire game, would it be 20 hours?
I don't know. But either way, it's like, you know, the ratio is even more lopsided, and that just goes back to the cutscenes. And yeah, you know, I probably wouldn't get as antsy if I enjoyed... Okay, so how about we talk about some fucking flashbacks? Because I didn't like...
Right. This is a problem I
majority of
have
these.
with the game. Yes. I don't really like a lot of these flashbacks. Some of them feel pointless. Like the first one.
Is that the one with...
That's the one with the spaceship.
Right. I completely forgot about that one.
That one
that's
feels
how-
just kind of unnecessary.
It almost feels like an olive branch, where it's like, I'm sorry we killed Joel. If you really cared, you can relive a little. I don't know what it doesn't tell us anything. Really?
No, the closest it gets is the ending with the ex-Firefly who's killed himself. That's the only thing that becomes relevant later. It's the idea that establishing that there are ex-Fireflies roving around, because of course that's what Abby's people are. And 2, foreshadowing Ellie starting to become more uncertain about whether Joel was telling the truth.
Maybe I'd be more okay with the whole game if they cut every flash. Well, you can't cut Abby's.
You can't cut Abby's.
Some of those are pretty important, but I still don't like them.
Yeah, but they're so baked into the game, you're asking for a different game.
You cut the Joel one, I think.
You cut that first one. The 2 I probably wouldn't cut are the one involving them fighting that bloater, and then the one you probably can't cut is the one with Ellie finding out, going to the hospital.
Yeah.
And I do think the ending of the ending of the third Ellie flashback, where Ellie finds out, you know, the truth, and gets that recording of Abby, and tells Joel to go fuck himself and that he's not her dad, and leaves. I like it. That works. That emotional beat works because on one hand, it is being a bit too on the nose, telling you that what Joel did was bad. Because I think if you're a reasonably intelligent player, you should know that. But
Or at
as
least
you
be
mentioned,
allowed to make your own...
Yeah.
Have your own thought about it.
I mean, I don't know even if I agree that the first game is that open-ended about it.
Yeah, I guess. But
I don't think the first game is necessarily that ambiguous even, but Yeah, just hitting you over the head with like, because so you sent me this Polygon article, and you'll be damned to hell for forcing me to read a fucking Polygon article. But it brings up the meta aspect of this scene, which is that the reason Ellie is so mad at Joel is not just that he doomed the world, but that he took away her choice, right? And it is interesting, and this is also true of the first game, and I think a deliberate subtext in the first game as well as this one. No one in the ending is interested in giving Ellie a choice. The Fireflies are going to kill her, and Joel is going to save her.
When I'm talking about the game being a bit more ambiguous in the first game, I'm talking about the fact that they demonstrate the Fireflies are incompetent, and that
you brought this up last time. You're thinking about it completely wrong.
No, hold on. But Ellie is just, we're never shown, like, do they just, presumably they just tell her, it's like, oh, you'll be under and you'll be fine. I don't know. No,
she's asleep when they get her.
Right, that's right, because
they don't tell her anything. She does not meet the Fireflies. She passes out because she gets hit on the head in the flooded subway tunnels, or flooded overpass. And then they find her, put her under, and prep for surgery immediately.
I guess what I'm saying is, it's like there's a point to saying the Fireflies are assholes for not telling, like, not at least telling her what's going to happen.
That's what I just said.
I know it. But
I just said.
But is that, like, confronted in the second game?
No. I think it's a deliberate subtext that the Fireflies weren't giving her a choice either. But the Fireflies are gone, is the problem. The only one she can yell at is Joel. Because Joel wiped out the Fireflies, functionally, as an organization. Wiped out the Fireflies.
I think this might be why you lose people that are on Joel's side a bit. And that's because it's like, I know she can't be angry at the Fireflies, but, because they're gone. But, like, when you boil it down, it's like they were going to kill her without telling her. And Joel stopped that from happening. And I don't know. See, I'm not even sure how I feel about this. But you think it works.
Yes. I think that scene works. Because I think that I think it's very effective that, like, maybe a bit on the nose, but the whole, like, the fact that Joel's punishment is that he just gets to... Ellie is going to live. He'll get what he literally wanted, or thought he wanted, right? But she's not going to be his daughter. Because that's what he really wanted. What he really wanted is to be a dad again. And she's going to take that away from him, because that's what he cares about. And it takes away his because the whole thing, the whole reason he makes that choice about saving Ellie is, I mean, obviously introduced in the first moments of the game, his guilt about letting his own daughter die. And this is his absolution. And so that's sort of taking it away. But this is also why I hate the fourth flashback, the last one.
And which one is that?
That one is the one at the dance.
Which they showed off, like,
at the trailer,
yeah,
which made me confused when it wasn't in the opening of the game.
Yeah, me too. Well, I was like, oh, when we finally got to it, I'm like, oh, so this is in the game. Interesting.
Yeah, because I thought the same thing you seem to have thought, which was that just original for the trailer?
Yeah.
And not in the game. And so my opinion on that sequence, and then the scene, because that flashback has two scenes, and then it's Joel and Ellie talking that night, which is like 6 hours before the game starts, basically.
Mm-hmm.
And my thoughts there were just like, the first half of this, the dance, Dina, the kiss, etc., should have just been in the opening of the game.
Yeah, and I almost wonder
why it wasn't. Yeah, like,
it almost feels like it was, and they just
because they reference it so much in the prologue of, like, that they kissed last night, and what does that mean, and they got into a fight, etc.
Maybe they were like, okay, that is too much cutscene. Maybe that's what they thought. They were like, we got to move this shit over, because that's even bigger ask of the player to have that whole cutscene.
Yeah, but So you had that. And then you have the scene after it where Joel and Ellie like make up that I fucking hate. I hate this scene. And let me explain why.
Please.
Because that scene is meant to be like, oh, it's now so much more tragic that Joel died. Because they were finally going to patch things up right before he died.
Yeah.
I think it's a way better thing if Ellie's last meaningful interaction with Joel was telling him that she hates him.
Which is weird that they want you to think that.
Like, they make you think that, and then they're like, actually, no. But that first one is the more... But having it be that they actually made up before he died and did get some kind of closure makes the tragedy of Joel's death less effective.
Is that just to throw the audience a bone so it's not
so depressing?
Because this game, the first game is dark, but you're continuing on, and you have the positivity of a growing bond. Of their relationship,
yes.
Yeah, and, maybe you're still believing in that she is gonna maybe cure
the world, right? And then, of course, like I mentioned in our episode on that gets totally pulled... The rug gets pulled out from under you by the ending.
Yeah, whereas this game is pretty much a downer most of the way through.
Right. No.
You're watching characters on the screen that you already know are going to be brutally murdered,
Yeah.
A lot of this game is watching dead people walking.
Yes. But
oh, shit. I just realized I made a dumb, zombie pun. Of course
it's about dead people walking. We are the Walking Dead.
Man, or just the fact that it's about zombie. Yeah, who's the real Who's the real
okay, George. Wow, that's such a great innovation, George Romero. You really got it in 1963, I think.
This game seems...
Anyway, hang on, let me finish what I'm saying. What I'm saying is, I wish this game was meaner then. I want this game to be mean. I want it to be like, no, the last thing Ellie said to Joel was that she hates him, and now she's doing this because that guilt is just tearing her up.
Yeah, if you're gonna do it, go for gold,
Because, just like saving Ellie and just denying the world a cure isn't gonna bring Sarah back, killing Abby isn't gonna bring Joel back, isn't gonna fix that. Just do it. But having this wimp out scene where it's like, no, they actually didn't hate each other at the end, and they were totally going to be back to being father-daughter now, is bullshit. Yeah. It's cowardly. I hate it.
Do you think that this game is kind of uninterested in its own zombie apocalypse now? Because the first game is about finding, that she'll be a cure.
Right.
And now it feels like the cordyceps monsters, those are things that exist.
Right.
I think more than the first game, you could take them out. Besides mechanically,
Okay. I agree, but I don't think it's a problem.
Yeah, okay.
It's in the same way that you can take Yojimbo from feudal Japan and put it in the American West.
Yeah, I guess I'm just thinking about...
Yeah, in the same way that you can take Unforgiven and put it in feudal Japan, which they did. In the same way you could take Seven Samurai and make it a Western.
I know, but it just seems
or you can take the Hidden Fortress. You can take the Hidden Fortress and put it in space. Right? It's fine.
Yeah, but zombies, but it's not about,
it's fine.
Those are all settings, but, zombies are, a more, just like you said with the John Romero thing, it seems like zombies are always supposed to be a more...
yeah, but they don't have to be. I don't care about that.
You know what? I'm about to be cringe. Mm-hmm. Maybe this hits on the moment where we're experiencing a plague and an outbreak, but it's just part of our lives, and it's kind of ancillary, even though it's definitely killing people, and we do have to still worry about it. So maybe it's just of the moment. You ever think about that, smartass?
Of the moment, as in it was finished before any of this happened?
Yeah, it was.
The game was totally complete before
it was
this.
It was
Accidental.
at the moment,
right? Because this game was totally finished before March of 2020.
There's a plague outbreak, but you know what? I'm more concerned about whether I can stab this bitch with a knife. You know?
Right. Anyway, I disagree. I think my comparison to the Western is apt because you can make a Western that's about westward expansion or about industrialization, Twilight of the Old West and whatnot. Right? You can make a Western that's about the politics of the Old West. Right? Or you can make a Western about a bank robbery.
Okay.
That could easily happen in New York in 1940 or in space. And I think especially in the 2010s, the sort of saturation of zombie media means that zombies are now just that. That you can just say, oh yeah, it's a zombie apocalypse story. And you don't need to be about the zombie apocalypse.
I just do think it's weird that we take a little moment from the plot, not a break from the plot, but Abby just kills like a blob monster at some point.
Oh, that's goofy as hell. That's dumb.
It's kind of awesome though.
It is awesome. It is like the only real boss fight in the entire series, but it's dumb as hell.
Well,
but
it's
that's
like
getting way.
That's like the video. Well, I know, but I guess I'm just saying it's like there's where. When you talk about kind of the fight of when you make an artistic third-person action game, there's like that push and pull between being more cinematic and taking its time and then being a video game. And that's where they're just like, fuck it, zombie boss fight.
Right.
And this is also a sequel, so it can't just be a bloater. It's got to be an even fucking bigger one. And
it's got to be... like the original Patient Zero in Seattle that has now absorbed everyone else in this hospital because they say the hospital basement is ground zero, right?
Yeah, there should at least be a line of like Abby's like, yeah, I killed like a really giant thing. Like I gotta tell
right because it doesn't even matter. Like you fight it, and then you get out, and it's like, well, we're going to war with the Seraphites. Let's get moving with this shit. It's like, what?
She's getting strangled by Ellie, and she's like, hold on, before you kill me,
I just want you to know. It's like she just wants people to know that she did something really cool.
Yeah, like, I did that. You can still find its corpse. Like...
Okay, but getting back to the linear narrative... Ellie and Dina then encounter the humans in Seattle, the WLF. Washington Liberation Front, or Wolves.
It's pretty standard stuff for that, like, the Seattle... Because you're basically just... I mean, Jesse shows up, and you're basically just moving through the area. And I think the next big plot beat is Dina being pregnant.
Right, which we already talked about. Dina's pregnant. Well, Jesse shows up way after that.
When you first talked to me, I thought you... Like, I know you say, like, it works. Like, you see what they're going... But do you like it,
Oh, her being pregnant thing? No, I don't think that works.
Okay.
I think the way it's used during the third act works. In the first act, it's corny as hell.
I think it also is corny. Well, we'll get to that. But,
right.
Yeah, and then it's... most of it is pretty much Ellie just hunting
down
and killing
the list
people.
Of those people that killed Joel.
And I guess it's a good time to talk about... How are you feeling about at this point? Because I'm a little... I'm trying not to let this branch off into the big point of third-person fucked up combat that still feels good, but you're supposed to feel bad. I guess I'm just trying to say is Ellie is hyper-motivated, and at this point, it just seems stupid, the amount of people she's running through. Like, it seems like a smarter person would turn back. And
Right.
I don't... And this isn't really a criticism. I guess I just thought Ellie would be smarter. And I understand, you wouldn't have a plot.
Right.
And I guess my only thing is that, I guess I didn't want a sequel. And this is the plot they're going with. It's like, I didn't really want to see Ellie go on kind of a stupid revenge plot. And when you're going through some really dangerous shit and getting captured, it's like, at some point, just like, could you turn... I realize that's partially how you're supposed to feel, but that is the hard sell of this game versus the first one where you ostensibly have a good goal to go towards.
Yes.
And this one, you have a goal that people probably might disagree with, and I did. And that makes things a little harder.
It's
sometimes.
not just that you might, you're supposed to.
Yeah, and
I don't know when exactly you're supposed to, but you are eventually supposed to.
when you throw a Molotov cocktail at a dog. No, when the fucking help tip after you die comes up, it's like, you can lay mines, and you should probably do that to deal with dogs by laying landmines.
Yes, but...
Those are real good at killing dogs.
In fairness, I mean, as we mentioned, killing dogs is a staple of video games.
Yeah, what do you think I meant? It's a turning point into realizing this game is awesome when you kill a dog.
Yeah, yeah. No, because, like... Because I remember there was a thing where the developer's like, you don't have to kill dogs, but there is one dog you have to kill, and it's the dog that is, like, Abby's pet.
And I say, like, the fuck you don't. Even if you don't, you do, because dogs are annoying as shit.
Yeah,
Like-
dogs suck.
But they're great gameplay-wise because you have to keep moving and...
Yeah,
You
yeah,
know,
because
and-
now they've added this smell mechanic, right, where you see your trail. And
Yeah.
if you stay in one place too long, the dogs find you.
Or you take, like, a risky shot with, trying to kill the dog and
The dog and
with
the
some
owner before they
arrows
can
or-
raise an alarm.
Yeah. I guess okay, so things don't really happen until Abby comes in and
A lot
She-
of things happen there in between those two. Hang on.
what the fuck else what like really important shit happens?
She kills a pregnant woman.
Oh yeah, I forget that okay, you're right. There's the whole confrontation.
There's the whole with... I am going to look up these characters' names because I don't remember them.
Mel. Mel's the pregnant lady, and
who's
Owen
the boyfriend? Owen's the boyfriend.
Yeah.
Okay. Yes, there's... Because she beats... Who's the other one?
Oh yeah,
She
I
beats
forgot
her to
about that.
death.
In a great gameplay sequence, because that's when they start mixing the zombies and the humans.
Oh, yeah. When you're in the underground, that sequence is great.
I like flares in games. I like that look. And in movies.
Yes. And so you trying to find that character's name.
You don't... it's not... I know who you're talking
Not
about.
important. You know who I'm talking about. You
Yeah,
chase her into the underground.
You have to
underneath
press
the hospital.
square to beat her with a fucking pipe.
Right. But there's kind of... That one, you get the whole thing of, like... Because you're torturing her to find out where the other ones are.
Yeah. Where you see what she learned from Joel.
Right. Well, because they bring that up earlier with Tommy, right?
Yeah.
Because they find two wolves and Tommy, and it's like, oh yeah, Tommy would have one point on the map and then one say it. And then if they weren't the same, he would kill one of them.
Yeah, and that definitely seems like a Joel does that in the first game, but he's doing it to cannibals, and so it's fucking awesome, even though it's
Right.
really messed up. And so now it's definitely it's like, wow, imagine if you did that to someone who didn't eat people, like
Well-
how fucked up that would be.
I mean, the implication is that in the past, Joel did that not only to people who don't eat people, but to innocent people.
Yeah, it's
Whose
just
stuff he
different
was stealing.
to see it though.
Right.
Yeah.
But so that you torture her, but in fairness, because this is not quite crossing the line yet. She is dying anyway, because this is all in spore infested.
Yeah, which that's why
so
part
dying.
of the reason this and I do like the scene after where Dina's like washing her up and you see her all bruised. I like seeing the bruised back of characters. I don't know why. That's
you
a particular...
like that shot, the sort of hunched over.
Yeah, give me a character where you see bruises and shit on their backs. I don't know why. It's just a particular thing. I like. But
characters who get fucked up.
But when she kills Mel and she's horrified,
yes,
that didn't work. I don't like. I understand that during gameplay, you know, ostensibly these people are hunting for you.
Yeah.
And it is technically self-defense. But
yes,
they make that as fucked up as possible, and you see all the gory details of her slitting people's throats. And so by the time you get to her... And meanwhile, remember, Owen made the first move, and Ellie retaliated.
Right.
And she already killed that girl playing Hotline Miami in kind of a intimate
That's
way.
what I wanted to bring up, is that, like, that scene was more effectively, like, skin crawling. Of this, like...
Yeah, because Ellie didn't care.
The same age or younger as Ellie, who's just playing a video game on, like, a PSP, and Ellie just slits her throat without saying anything.
And I didn't buy that was the bridge too far. I really didn't.
Yeah. I mean, I get it, because there is meant to be that parallel with Dina, and it's conceptually horrifying to kill a pregnant woman. But in the game, it comes off as a bit hilariously over the top for being, like, fucked up. Because at this point, it's already been established that she doesn't want to kill them.
Because it has to be fucked up. You have to keep raising the bar because you're already killing dogs with landmines.
Right.
So you have to kill a pregnant woman to make it horrifying.
Right. But what I'm saying, like, and it's at this point, because Ellie doesn't even want to kill them at this point. Because after she kills that woman in the basement of the hospital, she decides she'll be satisfied with just Abby. None of the others have to die. She just wants to kill Abby. And so, yeah, it just feels way too over the top. And obviously constructed of making sure that, what's her name? The pregnant woman?
Mel.
Making sure that Mel is wearing this big coat.
Oh, yeah.
So that Ellie won't know that she's pregnant. Which feels a bit too obviously constructed in the same way as the timeline of Dina's pregnancy feels too obviously constructed. And yeah, that moment was just not effective for me at all.
And
like,
then
I get it.
Yeah. But of course you get it. You get it.
Okay. So we get to the twist. Not the twist, but she kills a pregnant woman. She freaks out. She comes back. I'm trying to remember, but it almost feels like, because she's with Tom now, everybody's back together.
Yeah,
they're back in the theater.
Yeah, they're mad because Ellie is mad at Dina for being pregnant.
Yeah,
and she says like you're useless or something like that.
I don't think that happens.
I wasn't sure. Okay, I didn't want to be a burden.
Well, you're a burden now, aren't you?
What?
Okay.
I don't think that ever happens in the game. I have no memory.
There's a part when Ellie gets mad at Dina. I don't remember exactly what she says, but Ellie gets mad at her for being pregnant. That happens.
I have no memory of that at all.
Okay. Well, either way, Abby busts in. We think that she kills Tommy. And fucking drills Jesse.
Yeah.
So long, fucker. Hardly knew ya.
He got owned. Did he even ever find out that he has a kid?
Yes. Because yeah, I think so.
Because I remember there being a moment when Ellie asks Dina if she told him, and Dina says no.
Oh shit. I don't know.
Is she pregnant?
Yeah.
Okay. I feel like I think you're right. I think you're right. I think we're losing steam, so I think we should split it.
Yeah.
But
okay.
I do want to do my last and final point. You like Take On Me guitar moments.
Yes.
I don't like it. And because it is part of a minor trend of what I like to call twee guitar moments in games. That also, there is one in BioShock Infinite. And yes, it is absolutely the worst, more thematically jarring version of that. And then I guess the other example would be Life is Strange, which is better. But
I don't think it's twee.
It didn't work for me. And I think maybe because Take On Me is one of those meme songs. Like, right. I think it came into resurgence again because it was used on fucking TikToks and Vines or whatever. And, you know, just like Don't Stop Believing became popular because of Glee. And I don't know.
You think that's why it's in the game?
I think that's why it's more in the consciousness of people. Like,
I don't think that's why it's in the consciousness of people Neil Druckmann's age. I think it's in their consciousness because it was huge when they were teenagers.
How old is he?
Neil Druckmann?
Yeah.
He's 43.
Okay, that song came out in the fucking 80s. Like, he would
Well, then it would have been big when he was a kid.
Yeah.
I don't think he knows it from fucking TikTok.
So,
what are you talking about?
Oh my god. No, I'm not crazy. Like, it had like, it's like an old song that started being played on the radio again because people started memeing about it. This is a thing that happens constantly now, and it's one of the earlier ones.
I don't think that's why people know it, though. It was a big song when it came out.
Okay, so maybe I'm projecting my own association with it, which is always a risk when you use a pop song. Yes. Like that, and I don't know, maybe do a different song. But again, to me, that whole thing just felt like indulgent, but also indulgent because you have a whole fucking mini game attached to this.
Yes, but that's not the only sequence with that mini game.
Okay, so I admit, you know, again, I'm just projecting the contents of my mind outward. Mm-hmm. But when this is going on, I'm thinking, like, holy hell. This is what, you know, people were crunching for. Like, adding a fucking guitar minigame so I could have a moment that didn't fucking work where you're playing Take On Me, a fucking meme song. And so, you know, hopefully someone out there shared that experience, but I'm glad that it worked for you.
So,
all right.
I don't know Take On Me as a meme song because I'm an adult. No offense.
Fuck
but
you.
I don't have a TikTok. I never go on TikTok.
Okay, listen.
I know Take On Me.
It wasn't TikTok. It was one of the older. It was like Vine.
Vine?
Or okay.
Okay, never went on Vine either.
I don't go on these things. I see the YouTube compilations afterwards.
I don't do that either. But I think that the scene works for me because it's a stupid song written in like bad English, which Take On Me is. I don't know. It's if they had been like, I am so sick of self-reflective self-consciousness in art.
Okay, so what would have been the worst song?
Huh?
What's like a bad song? Like, what would have been worse than like?
I don't know. I just think it's good because it's cringe.
It's good because it's cringe. Okay.
Yes, we got to stop being scared of being cringe.
I guess I gotta put up what. You know, what would be like a more serious... What if she just did a little song without singing?
Like just an instrumental piece? A pre-existing one or a new one?
What if she just started playing like Metro songs?
Yeah. Also, okay, wait, I do have something to say about the guitar in general.
Yeah. Oh, yeah,
I forget. It's bad. It existing is bad.
Wait, but isn't it important? Because... the whole losing fingers thing at the end of the game.
Right.
Like,
that's dumb.
Why is that dumb? I'm not saying I disagree, but
so for one, the guitar existing as this weird. It's not necessarily. So there's one line near the end of the first game where he's like, "If we get out of this, I'm gonna teach you how to play guitar." And I believe that's the only reference in the entire first game to Joel's guitar.
And so you're just the fact that they made it a thing, and that's one of the first things you see him doing is cleaning the guitar.
And giving it to Ellie, and then that becomes like a central symbol of this game. In a way that is, and it's a symbol that's cliche.
Yeah, guitars are kind of lame.
The fucking what? It's, you know, Ellie is the wandering nomad with a guitar. She's fucking Woody Guthrie. You know?
Yeah, and in the trailer, she's doing the guitar, like singing, and then going like, "I'm gonna kill them all," and like maybe
that's
that was
supposed to be like a central image of this game is the guitar, and I just don't think it works.
You know, that's I can't disagree with that. As someone who plays guitar, it's like, oh, you learned the most boring instrument. Congratulations.
Yeah.
And the reason why it's a guitar is because when the zombies come, it's like, that's what's going to be left. Like, everything else... Pianos, you saw in the first game, they get pushed around so you can climb on something. Fucking drums, forget about it. You can... Well, drums, maybe you get one, you know, and you can hit it, like, by the campfire. But guitars, there'll be thousands of fucking guitars, and, you know, you can kind of finagle... Like, some asshole's always gonna know it, and people who play guitar don't know music theory. So, when people, like, no one is gonna pick up a trumpet and be like, oh, I remember, you know, and they won't be able to, like, hand that down to someone else. You can teach any asshole a guitar, like, the more realistic thing is that she'd be playing a fucking ukulele.
That'd be better.
Because it'd be more
a banjo. No, a banjo.
No.
A banjo. Yes.
No.
Hang on.
No, banjos are too cool. No, banjos are too cool. Again, like people, they don't know music theory, but like if someone's playing a banjo, they know how to play the banjo. They're not playing 4 chords.
Yeah, I guess.
But that would be cool if, like, you know, Joel, it's like, yeah, I actually used to play the fucking banjo. Can you believe it? You know, I was in a fucking bluegrass group.
We all saw Oh Brother, Where Art Thou? Speaking of the Coen brothers.
With my brother Ethan.
With my brother Ethan, I mean Tommy. But I called him Ethan for a while because we saw.
Okay, I probably cut out the part where we planned what we're going to do with this, but we're going to cut it off now, and just like the game itself,
we're going to have a part 2. We're going to have a part 2.
And we're going to switch over to Abby's perspective in the second half. And so, we'll see you next time.
We will be replaced by different people in the second part of this episode.
Yeah,
Goodbye.
stronger, sexier. That, or sexy. Shut up.